Good afternoon, guys. You're welcome to class. Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to class. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You're welcome. How was your weekend?
Nice.
Thank you, ma'am.
Glory to God. I received the assignments from those that did it. You actually did a great job.
Fine,
That's a
thank you, ma'am.
good one. At least you show that you are prepared for WAEC and even for higher class, because I'm saying that because I know the assignment I gave you is not something you can copy directly from the notes I gave you. It's not in the notes. And for you to have get it done, it shows that you actually go extra mile, and that's a very good one. I'm proud of you. You know, virtually everybody I replied, I put I'm proud of you. And I'm not saying because I just want to flatter you. I'm proud of the work you are doing. It shows you are ready for higher task. Today, by the grace of God, we'll look at the concluding part of our international trade. That's why I target international trade 2. And for assignment I'll be giving today, please, it will be submitted via this WhatsApp number and not email as it used to be. I hope we are following this instruction. I've put the number, and let me quickly call it out for you. 070-3108-6870. So please submit through WhatsApp platform. All right, like last week we looked at the meaning of international trade. We're able to look at reasons for it. Why should we engage in international trade, or what are the reasons for international trade? The good part of it and the negative part of it. So today we are going to look at some terms. The principle or the law of comparative cost advantage. The principle or the law of comparative cost advantage. I put slash because sometimes it will come in form of state the law of comparative cost advantage or state the principle of comparative cost advantage. The law or principle of comparative cost advantage propounded by David Ricardo in 19th century states that a country will be better off if it specializes in the production of commodities in which it has the greatest comparative cost advantage over others and exchange them for commodity in which it has comparative cost disadvantage. Now, what David Ricardo is saying here is that if you are good at a particular commodity, you know you have edge above others. What is going to cost you to produce them or to produce that particular commodity will not be as much as what is going to cost other countries of the world, then specialize in it. And other ones that it will cost you a lot to produce them, leave those ones, don't bother yourself. So that while you are struggling with that one, you can put more of your strength, you can put more resources in where you have strength, and then leave where you don't have strength. And by having the excess or much commodity from your area of strength, you can exchange them. You'll be able to sell them to countries that cannot produce them or have comparative cost disadvantage, that is, it will cost them more. And then the revenue you realize from that one can be used to purchase those commodities that you cannot produce on your own. That's what comparative cost advantage is talking about. And please take note, it was propounded by David Ricardo in 19th century. This issue should come out in OBJ very well. Like this particular law was propounded by Dash. It is David Ricardo. Please take note. I hope we've gotten what the law of comparative cost advantage is saying. It says a country will be better off if it specialized in production of commodity in which it has greatest comparative cost advantage over others, and exchange them for commodities in which it has comparative cost disadvantage. You know, it's simply saying if you are good at chemistry, though I will not advise you to bring this law to your academics. This one is just talking about the economy. You know, but let me use academics for instance. It's saying that if you are good in physics, and then in other ones, you are not so strong. The law of comparative cost advantage is saying, put all your strength, all your energy in physics, such that there's no question, no matter how much the question is twisted, this one, change, throw up, throw down, mixed up, you are going to give accurate answer per time. Specialize in physics and leave other subjects in which you are struggling. Because if you leave them, you'll be able to concentrate on your physics rather than saying, okay, you want to be good there, and then even your area of strength, you might not really be able to do much because you are struggling in an area where you don't have strength. That is what comparative cost advantage is talking about. And then quickly we move to the assumptions. Assumptions of comparative cost advantage. The principle of comparative cost advantage is based on the following assumptions. Assumption 1 is that there are only 2 trading countries. Now, comparative cost advantage is saying that only 2 countries are involved. That is saying that the countries that are involved in this actually practice bilateral trade. That's assumption number 1. So it's not really talking about, okay, you having interaction with other countries. So it's saying, since it's just 2, you are good at this, the other country you are trading with is not good at this, specialize on this, and then you give to them, you also get what they need. Now, another assumption of this principle of comparative cost advantage is that only 2 items are produced. That's why I said this one will not be appropriate for the academic setting. But of course, we can also use the example. It's saying, for instance, if you are a student, just English and maths is involved in all you want to do. So only 2 items are produced. There is free flow and mobility of factors of production. That is, land, labor, capital, entrepreneur move freely in these 2 countries that are involved. Another thing is that there is no balance of trade between the 2 countries. No balance of trade. You know, we'll still get to balance of trade is dealing with visible trade, visible import and visible exports. This does not exist between the 2 countries, and there's no transport costs. You enter freely. For instance, if you are in bilateral trade with Ghana, and so if Nigeria wants to transact, there's nothing like transport costs. They just go there freely, they come in freely, because it's just 2 countries that are involved. And technology and cost are constant. There's nothing like, oh, there's fluctuation in price of raw material, and that is why we have to change this has to change. No, it is assumed that the level of technology is constant and the cost of production is also constant. And then the only factor of production involved is labor. So these are the assumptions of comparative cost advantage. Now let's look at the twin brother of comparative cost advantage, which is the principle of absolute advantage. The principle of absolute advantage propounded by Adam Smith states that a country should specialize in the production of a commodity or commodities and services in which it has absolute advantage over other countries. According to him, that is according to Adam Smith, a country has an absolute advantage over other countries if she can produce a commodity or service which other countries cannot produce. Now, the difference between the comparative cost advantage and absolute advantage is that in the comparative cost advantage, the Ricardo is saying that specialize in the area where you are good and don't struggle in area where you are not good. Leave it for those that are good, and then you exchange your commodities. But absolute advantage propounded by Adam Smith says that specialize in the production of goods in which you are the only one that can produce it. No other countries can produce it, and then you'll be able to sell to them. Now, please take notes. The law of comparative cost advantage was propounded by David Ricardo, while the principle of absolute advantage is propounded by Adam Smith. Please don't mix it up. You know, sometimes in the exam, they give you this question and they put the two names. So if you are not careful, once you just see comparative, you see advantage, you might be tempted. So please be sure. Comparative cost advantage is David Ricardo, while absolute advantage is Adam Smith. And then we move to terms of trade. This is one of the terminologies used in international trade. A term of trade is a rate at which a country's exports exchange for its imports. Simply put, term of trade are price ratio between export and imports. It is measured mathematically using this formula below. So we have the term of trade to be index of export price over index of import price multiplied by 100 over 1. So the term of trade is just talking about the rate at which countries exchange goods. The rate at which export is exchanged for imports. And to get your term of trade, you divide the export index of export price by index of import price, and then you multiply it by 1. That is your term of trade. All right, let's go to the balance of trade. Balance of trade shows the difference between the values of countries' visible exports and imports over a given period of time. The balance of trade shows the difference between the value of countries' visible export and import over a given period of time. It is known as balance of payment on current accounts. Balance of trade is described as favorable when receipts from exports are more than payment from imports. On the other hand, it is unfavorable when payments on imports are more than export receipts. Nigeria visible exports are cotton, cocoa, and import electronics, car, and so on. Now, what balance of trade is talking about is just the difference that occur between the value of countries' visible export and import over a given period of time. Now, the difference between the term of trade and balance of trade is that you use price index for term of trade, while in balance of trade, you are only considering the visible import and visible exports. I know the latter part of this note says that it's also known as balance of payment on current account. We are still going to talk about that in our class today. Now, when you are talking about balance of trade, you are only considering visible exports and visible imports. Invisible exports and invisible imports will be excluded. Because we've seen cases in which, in exam, you may not be asked what is balance of trade or term of trade. There will be items and there will be prices in front of them, and you'll be asked to solve for, balance of trade or term of trade, visible export, invisible export, balance of current account. Please, if that is coming from you, mute yourself. So, please take note of this. Balance of trade deals with visible items alone. And examples of visible items that we export in Nigeria are cocoa, cotton, and so on. And then imports includes, the visible imports includes electronics, car, and so on. These are things that you can see. So, now we go to the balance of payment. Balance of payment. Balance of payment is a statement is statement showing the monetary value of all transactions between a country and the rest of the world during a given period of time, or during a given period, which could be a year. It is a record of all payments to and received from foreign countries during a particular period of time, usually a year. It is made up of current accounts, capital accounts, and monetary movement accounts. Balance of payments is just showing the summary of the transaction that has taken place between one country and the rest of the world. And the word payment is used for import, while receipt is used for export. Now, if you go to a market and you purchase a commodity, you will make payments. So we liken import to the goods that we buy from a shop. That is, the goods that we buy from other countries, we make payments. And then if you are the one selling out goods, you will not make payments. What you do is you issue receipts. So this receipt is used for export. Please take note. Because in exam, when I'm saying exam, for those of you that are familiar with Q&A, you will agree with me, they may not write export or import. You just, sometimes you see payments, sometimes you see receipts. Sometimes you see exports and imports. So payments is used to represent import, while receipt is used to represent export. Please take note. You issue receipt for exported goods and you make payment for imported goods. And this balance of payment is usually done in a year and is made up of 3 different accounts, which is current accounts, capital accounts, and monetary movement accounts. And we're going to talk about them one after the other. So let's start with the components of balance of payment, like we said in the previous slide, include current accounts, capital accounts, and monetary movement accounts. And this monetary movement accounts is also known as gold movement account. So let's start with the current accounts. The current account shows the total of a country's receipts and payment on visible and invisible trades. So if you are to, you can have items and a question comes like, calculate the current account. If you ask to calculate current account, both visible and invisible items will be included. Don't forget, this current account includes both visible and invisible trade. While for the balance of trade, are we together? We only have visible export and visible imports and no invisible. So the visible trade accounts now, which is the same thing as balance of trade, it includes visible items. Like I said, only visible items when you are working with visible trade accounts. And these visible trade accounts can also be called merchant accounts or merchandise accounts. Please take notes, because sometimes they can be so trickish and they just use English. Any Ochai, you want to say something?
No, ma. Sorry, ma.
All right, no problem. So the second aspect, which is invisible trade. Invisible trade accounts cover services such as transportation, insurance, and banking. Other things included are travel expenditure like tourism, income from investments such as interest, profit and dividend, private gifts, government services, and other services. Now, invisible, we said that all these ones comes under invisible accounts. Over time, if you check Q&A for 2016, questions came on, items were given, and the candidates were asked to calculate the direct tax indirect tax. They didn't even ask them what is the meaning of direct tax or indirect tax. What they just want to be sure of is the candidate knows, because in the course of treating that, they were taught examples of direct tax and indirect tax. So the examples of the invisible trade accounts include banking. If you see anything on banking, it is invisible. Interest, tourism, and so on is invisible. You know, I would like you to go through past questions, and where you see questions like this, please attempt it. I have assignment, and this is not part of my assignment, but for your own personal consumption and for future purpose, so that, you know, I want to see why why are people shouting? This is just like normal CA, and that starts from now. So please, that's why I'm pointing at it, that WAEC may not ask you for the meaning. These examples are very important, please. So these are the examples of invisible trade accounts: tourism, banking, government services, anything service comes under invisible trade accounts. All right, so let's go to the other part, other accounts, which is the capital account. The capital account is made up of the movement or flow of money or capital from one country to another, such as investments, international grants, and loans. There are short and long-term capital movements. A country's balance of payment is favorable when money received is more than amount you paid out, and vice versa. You know, in this balance of payment, we are going to be talking about favorable and unfavorable. We're going to be talking about deficit and surplus. So if it's favorable, it means we have more. Like in this current account, for instance, if we receive more money than we pay out, it means that it's favorable. And if we pay out more than we receive, it means that the capital account is unfavorable. Please take note. Because even if you get your calculation, you know, the B part might ask, is the account favorable or unfavorable? Your answer determines if it's favorable or not favorable. And so if it's to our advantage, it's favorable, and if it's otherwise, it's unfavorable. Take note. All right, to the last account, monetary movement or gold movement account. This account shows a country balances in its current and capital accounts. This is the balance. This is the balancing account. Official settlement account shows how surplus, it shows how surplus or deficit in current account and capital account are finally settled. You know, we've looked at current account. It deals with both visible and invisible, export and import. We look at capital accounts like investment. And so the monetary movement look at the combination of these accounts. So if you are asked to work on the monetary movement account, it shows that you are going to talk about everything, both current account and capital account. And that tells that you are going to work on both the visible, invisible, and then the capital account that involves loans, investments, and so on and so forth. All right, let's move to the next thing, which is balance of payment equilibrium. You know, once you hear about equilibrium, you know that it is not one thing, because it takes two to tango. So once the equilibrium is just talking about the equal parts, I know this word equilibrium is not new to you guys in SS2. So once you bring this equilibrium to balance of payment, we have done equilibrium under demand and supply. So because the balance of payment shows that if you are mentioning the word balance of payment, it means you are making a transaction outside your country. And then in your economy, if you want to talk about your economy, what you do with other economies of the world will be included. And so we want to look at the equilibrium aspect of it. So the balance of payment is in equilibrium when total receipts are equal to total payments. And I'm sure now the word payment and receipt is not new to you again. Receipt is used to represent exports, while payment is used to represent imports. And I said it earlier that, when you buy goods, you make payment for what you buy. But if you are the one selling out the good, you issue receipts. So that is why the word receipt is used to represent export and payment is used to represent imports. Please take note of this for the sake of your OBJ. A country is experiencing equilibrium in its balance of payment when total inflow is equal to total outflow. In other words, balance of payment is in equilibrium when total export is equal to total import. That's the summary of this balance of payment equilibrium. So we quickly look at the balance of payment disequilibrium. Balance of payment disequilibrium. This occurs when a nation's receipts do not equal its payments. That is, if the imports and exports are not equal. That is balance of payment disequilibrium. Total receipts on capital and current accounts are not equal to the payments within a year. So we look at the types of this balance of payment disequilibrium. The types of balance of payments in equilibrium are balance of payment deficit and balance of payment surplus. If we say that, oh, it is not equal, it is either one is higher than one or the other is lower than one. So we're going to look at them quickly. So the balance of payments, if we have balance of payment deficit, it could either be surplus or, if we have balance of payment disequilibrium, it could either be surplus or deficit. So the first one is balance of payment surplus or favorable balance of payment. That is why you are seeing / favorable. A country is experiencing surplus in its balance of payment when total receipts, which is the inflow now, from a country's exports are greater than total payments, which is outflow, on imports of country in a given year. So to have our surplus, it should be receipt is greater than payment. That is, export is greater than imports. And you will agree with me, if what you have, what is coming to you, if the rate at which we import shows how incapable we are. That's not the truth. Most of us, we are proud of saying, oh, my bag is imported. My shoe is from Italy. I'm using Italian bag. I'm using this. If we import more than we export, it's a slap on our face. Even though we are proud of showing people that, oh, I'm using imported goods. It's not always like that in most cases. Imported goods does not really portray, too much of imported goods does not portray any economy well. So if we have balance of payment surplus or favorable balance of payments, it means that our export is more than our imports. The receipt we issue out is more than the payments made on imported goods. All right. So what are the effects of balance of payment surplus? Oh, now we have money, because if our export is more than import, definitely we are going to have money more than we used to have. One, inflationary trend. If this is not properly monitored, there is much money in the economy now. The much money may be pursuing few commodities that are available, and that leads to inflation. So you can give birth to inflation. Then another effect of balance of payment surplus or favorable balance of payments is that it could be used for settlement of debt. Oh, thank God. Having gotten the amount that can be equated or equal to what we export out, we have excess. What can we do with this excess? Oh, we are owing a particular country, or we are owing a particular international financial institution like IMF. That surplus could be used to settle such debts. Another effect is increase in inflow. That is, there is increase in amount of money that comes to our economy. That is, there is increase in injection. I'm sure the word injection is not new to you again. I want us to be using these terms. Show people, your elderly ones in tertiary institutions that while you are still in secondary school, you know what you are doing, and you can use the terms they are using there. So, and I believe if you hear the word injection, it's something that put income into our economy, while leakage is something that takes out. So there is increase in inflow, or you can say that it brings about injections to the economy. Another effect of this balance of payment surplus is increase in foreign investment. You have money to invest in foreign things that you are not able to before. So quickly we'll look at balance of payment deficit or unfavorable balance of payment. You remember that under the balance of payment disequilibrium, we said that we have two types, which is balance of payment surplus and balance of payment deficit. So we've treated the surplus aspect of it, and then we want to look at the deficit. And the word deficit, something that is not favorable. So let's look at the meaning. This is a situation where the total payment on imports is greater than the total receipt of a country's exports in a given year, or vice versa. That is, a country's receipts are less than its payments in a particular year. If our imports is more than exports, that means we are pumping money to other economy than we receive from other economy. That's unfavorable balance of payment or balance of payment deficits. Well, let's quickly look at causes of this balance of payment deficit. What are the things that give birth to this balance of payment deficit? Low level of technology. If you have technology, something that takes you 1 day, if you have sophisticated technology, it may not take you more than 5 minutes. When I was doing my A-levels, our coordinator told us that then he was doing his own PhD program. And he said there was a practical he needed to carry out. And normally people that have been doing before him, you have to be in the lab for 24 hours to monitor it. And he was able to get something from another country, and I think he said he spent less than 15 minutes. You can imagine if you produce what you will produce when you don't have technology, it will take you a day, which is 24 hours. And that same thing can be produced in 15 minutes. Now that 15 minutes, look at how many 15 minutes that we are going to have in 24 hours and how much you are going to produce. And if you have much production, you'll be able to export the excess to other countries of the world. So the low level of technology will reduce productivity, and that will give birth to balance of payment deficit or unfavorable balance of payment. Another cause of balance of payment deficit is low level of foreign direct investment. When you don't invest, how do you make profits when you don't invest? When you are buying, if you are investing in other countries, there won't be problem. But if what you are doing is just buying, and if you are buying, it doesn't make you are making investment. Any purchase that you make that will not give you future income, that is just for immediate consumption, is not an investment. And so low level of foreign direct investment could cause balance of payment deficits. Another thing is high debt service payment. The money you are getting, rather than using it to invest in foreign goods, all you are doing is you are settling debts. You can imagine when you are given 3 tickets in school, you had already, when you finish your own 3 tickets, and then you have a friend that is so prudent that spent just 1 while you have finished 3, and you approach him or her, please, can I get one of your tickets? When we resume next time, I'll pay you. And then you get 1 ticket. By the time you get 3 tickets next time, the following time, while others are going to talk shop the way they want, when you are both spent 2, they will still be left with 1. You will not have 1 again. Why? Because that 1 you will use it to service the one that you already borrowed in the previous time. So when a country is in debt and the debt has to be serviced, there will not be excess. Please, if this noise is coming from your hand, mute yourself, please.
I'm saving this money. I will
No, this one you give us the 300 remaining.
Please. Sorry, please.
Come here. No, this one.
Bola. Bola, please mute yourself. Sorry, please. All right, like I was saying, so if you have any debt to settle, definitely there's going to be deficits. Another cause is poor performance of non-oil sector. When you think, oh, it's only the oil sector that can get it done, other sectors are not doing it. Agricultural sector fold their hands. The mining sector fold their hands. It's just oil sector. Oh, you won't be able to go far. And then only oil cannot solve our problem. That's the truth. Because one of the problems we have is over-dependence on oil, and which makes other sectors to perform low, thinking, oh, oil will solve our problem. And here we are, among the third world nations of the world, developing country. And I hope you know that developing is not the same thing as developed. Why? Because most of the time we are always in balance of payment deficits. And these are criteria used in ranking countries of the world. All right, another cause is low level of agricultural production. Most of the farming system practice in Nigeria is either peasant or subsistence, majorly for consumption or little for sales. And if we don't have excess, would you go and sell when your people are hungry? No. So low level of agricultural production is another thing that causes balance of payment deficits. So we want to look at how, there's a popular saying that a problem known is half solved. How do we correct this balance of payment deficit? Or how do we control it? One, devaluation. Devaluation cheapens export and make import expensive, thereby improving the balance of payments. I would have loved to explain the meaning of devaluation itself, but because it's part of my assignment, I will not tell you. So go and search. But what devaluation does is that it makes export cheaper and import expensive. So when what you want to, the imported goods you want to buy is too outrageous, the cost is more than what you think you can afford, you will be forced to buy what we have, the locally made goods. And by so doing, the excess that is going to other country that makes us to dwell in deficit will be corrected. Most of us, I don't like, I don't use local things. Local things does not mean it's not good. Don't forget that what is local to you is actually foreign to other countries of the world where we export them to. I want you to have a better orientation. Some people find it difficult to interpret English correctly. Once they hear local, they think local is something that is not good. No. From our previous class, local simply means something that is domestically produced. Home trade is not from other countries. So what is local to you is actually foreign to another person in another country of the world. Take note of that. Another way to control this balance of payment deficit is reduction of imports. The government can restrict imports by the use of tariff. When you place high tariff on imported goods, that's, the tax to be paid on imported goods, if it's so high, somebody that wants to bring in 50 might reduce what he or she will bring in to 20. Then by use of quota and outright embargo on imports, we don't want more than so number of these particular goods. Another way is export promotion measure. Government can encourage production of exportable goods in large scale. Some of agricultural produce that can be exported, government can encourage the farmers to go to do them in large scale. Another way of controlling it is borrowing from international financial institutions. A country can borrow money from IMF, which is, the IMF is International Monetary Fund, or other richer nations in order to correct a balance of payment deficit. You can borrow. And then if you are wise, you service it, and yet you will not still be in another deficit. Another way is promotion of import substitution industries. This is done to replace commodities that were previously brought from foreign countries. You know, the import substitution is saying, oh, right, this thing that we used to import, let's set up factories that can do them, that can give us the same taste. So if, for instance, you have made in Nigeria to be 5,000 naira, and you have made in China to be 30,000 naira, and you discover that it's going to serve the same purpose, sir, I bet you will go for that one. And if you are saying, no, it's not good, the difference is much, if you try it once and you discover that it gives you the same satisfaction the one of 30,000 naira will give you, the next time you want to go for it, you will go for 5,000 naira one that is made at home. So if we can have import substitution, then this deficit will be corrected. And lastly, on that note, drawing from foreign reserves, drawing on the value of foreign currency reserve to pay the creditors. You know, the excess you have in the time past that you have been keeping, you can, you can use it. You can fall back on it, and then you correct your balance of payments deficit. These are what we have for today. Now, evaluation. Any question from anyone? Put on your videos, please.
No, ma.
No, ma.
No question. All right, if there's no question, Boye, put on your videos. Eddie, Alpha.
How you do?
All right, that's a very good one. I saw your handwork. You know, it was a good one. The assignment was a good one. Boye, put on your videos.
Thank
now.
You, ma.
Ma, my video is on. Since you said there's no question, it shows that what we did today is well understood. All right?
Mark.
Grace.
Yes, ma'am.
Grace, can you differentiate between favorable balance of payment and unfavorable balance of payment? Matu Grace, differentiate between favorable balance of payment and unfavorable balance of payment.
Answer now. Mark.
I don't know.
You said?
Mark.
I don't
Ask Mark.
Ask
Mark.
Mark.
That's a slap.
Ask Mark.
Mark.
Mark
says he knows.
It's possible there's somebody that wants to say
Mark says he knows.
and I've not called the person's name.
Mark says
If
he
you
knows,
want to
but he's
answer
shy.
this question, oh, Bola, I can see you. Bola,
Mark
please
knows it.
differentiate between favorable balance of payment,
Man,
favorable balance of payment.
Mark.
Bola,
Mark says he knows.
differentiate between...
It's my shit though.
No, see, we are listening
Mark,
to
no
Bola.
bullshit.
Let's hear from Bola.
Ask Mark.
You don't know. I should
Bola
add that
does
to
not
assignment.
know.
Is it that you don't understand or what?
No, ma.
no copy.
Ma, don't add it to our assignment.
No. I want to hear from Bola. Is the only one
Mark say he
permitted
knows.
to talk for now. Bola,
keep quiet now.
Mark, give us class work.
Bola, you are saying something.
I said I'm not copying the notes.
You've not completed the notes.
It's not.
Explain, just explain it the way you understand it.
Mark knows you.
I cannot explain it.
You cannot explain it,
Bola na
but you know it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he did in my room. This guy.
Okay.
It's my season. He knows. Mark knows. Mark knows. He said he's shy.
Shut up.
Yes, ma.
All right.
He said he's shy.
I can see that you guys are not really ready.
Ma, let me try.
That's a very good one.
Ma, let Mark try.
No, let Grace try. Grace.
My Grace now do.
Grace does not know it. My Grace does not know it.
My Grace does not know it. She's a do.
My ask it, ma.
My favorite.
It's okay, it's okay.
Ask
We want
Mark.
to hear from Grace. That's all.
My
Grace
Grace
talk
does
now.
do.
You're welcome. Let's hear from you.
Grace talk if you're talking. What's your own?
My favorable one is the one that you be benefit.
Shut up.
Stop
Quiet now.
this.
Shut up, you don't
Mute
know.
yourself. Mute yourself. All right, Grace. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank.
Favorable one is the one that you gain and profit from it. Then unfavorable one is the one that you that you will not profit really much from it.
That's a very good attempt.
Thank you.
You're welcome. God bless you.
Thanks. That's nonsense.
All right. Let me project
Grace,
the
shut up.
assignment. Don't forget that the assignment is to be submitted via WhatsApp.
My
and
Mark is
not
greeting you.
email as
Ma, you
usual.
don't mean it. You don't mean it.
All right. You are to explain the following terms. A, dumping. Explain the meaning of dumping, and B, devaluation of currency. Explain the following terms. A, dumping. B, devaluation of currency. I hope you've gotten it.
Is your email was submitting it?
No,
Yes.
WhatsApp. Let me go back to the first slide and project it again.
Man, can't you submit it on screen?
No.
Hi, God.
My wife.
Send your
for the
WhatsApp number.
reasons that are best
the
known.
only assignment.
Please shut up. It's Mark, you go ahead.
Grace, shut up
I
now.
hope you copy the. Please mute
Grace,
yourself.
shut up. You're
Mute
making noise.
yourself. After all, you have each other's phone number. After the
Who
class,
is
you
this
can
Mr.
call.
Bombastic?
All right.
It's my please shut up.
Please
Now,
mute
what is your
yourself.
WhatsApp? What's your
Edward, shut up
Is
now.
it Mark?
Mark, shut up.
See the WhatsApp number.
Ma, we can see it. What is your WhatsApp?
If you are not writing,
Thanks.
behave
I
yourself.
said, what?
Thank you. Mark, shut up
Ma,
now.
what is your WhatsApp? Or should we send it to email?
Please shut up.
Who's that person
It's
again?
easier to access. Yes, it's easier.
So you can still send it to your email.
You said something
You may
about.
not get it as at when you
Yeah.
I'm not even getting it. Other people are talking in the background.
Please, your eye is man.
You may not be able to get it as at
You
when.
guys.
All right, so we've come to the end of
Thank
the
you.
class. Let's have our closing prayer.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Let's have our closing prayer.
Okay,
Mark,
ma'am.
pray for us.
Father in heaven, we thank you for today.
Mark.
May your name be praised in the name of Jesus.
Mark, pray.
Lord, we pray that this we have learned today will do us good and make us impact our economy and the economy of the world positively in Jesus' name. For in Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. All right.
Amen.
God bless you.
Man, with you.
Amen.
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 He said,
Man, we miss you.
Bye-bye, ma. God bless you too.
Amen.
Grace, God punish you.
Please, I submitted my last assignment this
Man,
morning.
shut up.